Hey, y'all, I know things changed a little bit. One thing that doesn't change, though, War Rapport Wednesday with our guy, Mike Gittens, virtually this time. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Rex. It is the end of the season, just about. Only four more games left for the Auburn Tigers in this basketball season, and the regular season crown is going to be decided here over these next four games. We're going to be on pins and needles to see who comes out on top.
All right, let's get right into it, Mike. Those four games, now some would say, all right, you're in the last four games, you can kind of coast. That is not the case if you're wearing orange and blue, because the Auburn Tigers have a gauntlet, all top 25 matchups, all of them, some of them are going to be top 10 matchups. What can we expect from the Auburn Tigers as they head into these last four games?
Yeah, I think you could expect them to come out at least 3-1. Look, the two teams that you have to worry about down the stretch are Alabama and Florida in terms of the regular season crown. Right now, you're two games clear of both of those teams, Rex. So if you can win three of these games, because Alabama and Florida have to play each other, so one of them is absolutely going to lose another game. I think if you're Auburn, you play Alabama, so you want Alabama to maybe win that Florida game, so that you can be in control of your own destiny at the end of the season. Uh, but look, man, I think a 3-1 is reasonable. Alabama may lose two. I think they have the hardest stretch of anybody left in the conference. So, and I do want to make one correction. Ole Miss fell out of the top 25 after this week. You've got three top 25 matchups: Kentucky 17, Texas A&M 12, and Bama 6. But if you're Alabama, you've got it really, really difficult down the stretch. This is going to be a brutal closing stretch for them. I don't see them coming out of that with undefeated at all. So, yeah, we may be looking at a two-loss stretch for them in these last four games, what they have left on the schedule. Alabama closes the season with Mississippi State, number 24, number 5 Tennessee, number 3 Florida, and number 1 Auburn. That's brutal. I think there could be three losses in there if they're not careful. We'll see how it goes. But I like Auburn to win the regular season crown outright.
There we go. And that's something we've all been looking forward to. I'm just really glad that my name is not Nate Oates right now because my goodness. Let's look back a little bit here. We're going to talk about Johni Broome, obviously, but we have to talk about these Auburn Tigers. Seventh week now, going in as number one. Are we at a point now where I think we've crossed that historic plane for this team? But what are you feeling when you witness this team grind out these wins? Because they were ugly games against Arkansas and Georgia.
They were ugly games, but that's the SEC this year, right? Georgia is a solid squad. Look, remember, this was a team that snuck inside the top 25 the first time that these two teams met. So they've given a lot of teams a run for their money down the stretch here, and it's been interesting to watch. But ultimately, if you're Auburn, you don't care how you win games. There's no such thing as style points for the Auburn Tigers right now. Right now, they're clearly the number one overall seed, and the only thing that's going to knock them off that is losing. It doesn't matter how they win; you just got to win. The SEC is widely regarded to be the toughest conference in college basketball in the last 35 years for any single season. Calipari said this after Arkansas came to Auburn and took an L. Every coach has been saying it. The league is absolutely insane this year. And so if you're Auburn, just win, man. That's it.
It's as simple as that. It's also as hard as that to do in the SEC as well. Now let's talk about Johni Broome. I mean, this guy continues to wow. He continues to make his case for National Player of the Year. 31 points, 14 boards, 4 assists. And I saw the crazy stat that no one has put up that kind of that stat line against a Division One team. Mike, I kind of wanted to bring it to a football comparison here. Are we witnessing kind of his Heisman moments, or has he already had a Heisman moment, but a basketball version of it?
I think his Heisman moment, so to speak, would have been versus Tennessee, where he was the best player in that game on one leg. There was speculation about whether Johni Broome would even play in that game or not. Stephen Pearl came out and said, look, we're going to leave it up to Johni. Like, if the doctors clear him, we're going to tell him, look, we'll go get this dub without you if we have to, but we want you to come back when you're ready. Well, They wouldn't have gotten the dub without him. They absolutely would have lost that game without Johni Broome. He absolutely carried them in that matchup. And if you're Auburn, you're thankful that he did, because if you lose that game with how tight the SEC is going to be down the stretch here, we may be looking at a very different scenario for the Auburn Tigers in terms of winning that title outright in the regular season. And trust me, Rex, it matters. Winning the outright title matters. Being co-champions is I mean, it feels wrong. It feels wrong, especially in a year when you're this good. So everybody is good in conference right now, but Johni Broome had his moment versus Tennessee, and it was spectacular. He absolutely shined.
He absolutely did it. And he is clear by far. And I think you mentioned it for several weeks now, ever since kind of that Tennessee game. Number 4 is clearly the best player on any court that he's on. We unfortunately we don't have a vote in the National Player of the Year conversation, but you know where we go. We're going to roll with Broome. I want to ask you this here, as we've seen this team other pieces really develop. A Miles, a Chad Baker Mazzara, a Denver Jones. Is there a guy who could potentially kind of be like an X factor, a guy who steals the spotlight heading into March? I was kind of akin to this in the 19 team. Jared Harper and Bryce Brown were kind of the clear faces of that team. Okiki was a solid player, and then he became a superstar in March. Is there a guy like that you could expect just have a crazy run in the SEC tournament and in the postseason?
Yeah, I think it's Miles Kelly. I think it's Miles Kelly. He is the sharpshooter that you need at the end of games that can absolutely devastate a defense. And so we've seen him hit big shot after big shot down the stretch so far this year. And if I had a 1B, it would be Chaney Johnson right now. He's going absolutely insane. He's got that little baby hook working, and he's a guy who can give you 15 to 20 on any given night. And so, Johni Broome doesn't have to carry the mantle every night. They can do that by committee. Denver Jones is another guy that can take over a game. Auburn is the deepest team in the country, and that's what's gotten them to this point, is that depth. It's what they've lacked in the past, as what most teams don't have year in and year out. Is this sort of depth is very uncommon, but you've got the best player in the country, you've got the best bench in the country, and you've got probably the best coach in the country so far this year.
I easily have to agree with you that it is the best coach in the country. All right, gonna put you on the hot spot here. You're super early, way too early. Final 4. If you had to pick it right now from the field, I know a lot still has to be determined, but do you have a Final 4 that you think, all right, if I had to fill out a bracket right now, who would it be?
Man, I think it's going to be really hard to keep Houston out of that thing. I've got Auburn in. There's going to be an outlier so far this year. I think that outlier may be from the SEC. I would look for a team like Texas A&M to make a run to the Final Four, possibly. It is, but I don't have the bracketology in front of me, Rex. But certainly, I think that Duke is going to have a chance to make a run as one of the top overall seeds. They're going to have one of the easiest paths so far here. But and as much as I hate to admit it, Alabama is another team that can make a really, really good run in the tournament. We saw them do it last year, making the Final Four, but they've got the offense to score with anybody, and that always makes them dangerous on any court that they're on.
Gonna be a lot of fun in March. I'm gonna fill out a bracket, Mike, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm probably burn it by the end of the first weekend, but that's not the fun of it. Let's talk about this team again. Coach Pearl said something really kind of profound, and he's been around for a while. He doesn't say this kind of superlative stuff easily. He mentioned that this team, if they finish out the right way, could be the best team in the regular season in the history of college basketball. The guy's seen some ball now, and he's assembled this team. Would that be true if they go 3-1 or 4-0 in this last 4 games?
Yeah, I think that would be true. And look, they're going to go 3-1. I'm telling you right now, they're going to go 3-1. So I think that's absolutely true. This team is special. They have something that is very hard to recreate in any year for any coach. But I think that what people are missing is who they're doing it against. This is my argument for Johni Broome for National Player of the Year over Cooper Flagg. It's who he's doing it against. Rex, they're beating top teams week after week after week. Look at Auburn's schedule. Look at the amount of quad one wins that this team has, but look at the amount of quad one games they played. It's absolutely insane. And so we're not talking about the schedule on the 14-2 on quad ones, right? And so you've got 4 quad one opportunities to end your season.
Which is
And
insane.
yeah, it's crazy. And if they win all 4 of them, that will be the most quad one wins since we instituted counting quad anything, the quad system. It was 2022, 2023 Kansas with 17 quad one wins in the regular season. When it was all said and done, it ended up being 16 because you move in and out of that. But like, to finish with 18 quad one wins and only have lost two. Remember, they lost nine quad one games with those 16 wins. That's crazy for Auburn. They're absolutely going to smash that record this year.
It's going to be absolutely crazy. And I think you bring up an excellent point. We see this argument in football. You could almost put it against any sport. The competition you're doing it against, your quality wins. Auburn has that, flowing, overflowing with their cup right now because they beat any good team in front of them at this point. It's going to be really exciting to see how they move on in March. Let's switch it over to the other side with a women's basketball team. Not necessarily the season we all wanted for this team. A lot of high expectations. A couple games left, Mississippi State and UGA. What can they salvage out of this last part of the season, Mike?
Yeah, it's just about finishing strong. Look, I mean, if you're Auburn women's basketball, nothing has gone your way this year, right? Your star player, Talia Scott, got hurt. She was the SEC's leading scorer last year. You have Deanna Gaston, who has stepped in admirably, I might add, right? So Deanna has been an absolute star for Auburn, but they don't have the depth that the men have. They just don't have it. It's not there. So, if you're looking at what Deanna's been able to do, you've got a top 10 scorer in all of college basketball, and you're a below 500 basketball team. That's that the talent is
Doing
there.
everything she can.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely is. Now, you've had Yuting Dong that's come in and done some really good things for them, but ultimately, she's still a true freshman, and this is going to be really, really difficult for her adjusting in season, doing what she's doing. I think next year she's going to be gangbusters in the SEC. It's just not this year. If you're Johnny Harris, get a couple games between now and the end of the season and somehow just try to make a run at the SEC tournament. We've seen it happen before. They've got the talent at the one deep. It's teams wearing them down at the ends of games or when they start to sputter offensively, they don't have anybody but Deanna to bring them back. We saw it versus Alabama. They jumped up to a huge lead, 15 points, and then blew it by the end of the second quarter. So yeah, Johnny Harris deserves a chance to fix this given what she was handed and what she accomplished the first 3 years with this team. This is an outlier. So far, you've been here 4 seasons. This season is the outlier, Rex, because you've improved this team every year for 3 years straight. There's a lot of people on social media kind of, I think, downplaying the task she had rebuilding Auburn women's basketball. And so it's just not there yet. And I want to hold the school's feet to the fire here a little bit as well, too. The support has not been there for the program, for the expectations to be sky high. Just hasn't, right? So we're not going to sit here and act like they're getting the NIL support because in this conference, those other schools are getting that. Ole Miss, LSU, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas. They're all getting the NIL support for their women's programs. They're investing in women's basketball. Auburn is not. And until they're ready to start, I think you need to temper your expectations for what Johnny Harris can accomplish without that support.
You know what? I think that's the perfect note to end it because you got to invest in these women. They're doing everything they can. Johnny Harris is doing everything they can. Hey, I could imagine a coach with her caliber, her talent, her leadership. If she had Kim Mulkey money, if she had Dawn Staley money, it'd be a different story out here. You know what I mean? If she had those resources available to her, and it's just a matter of the fact, y'all, we got to step up for these ladies because it's a great program. She's a great coach. Mike, you've recruited me for that Coach Harris bandwagon, so I'm all for it. I agree. These Lady Tigers need a chance. And honestly, outlier here, you can't help injuries. People get hurt. It's basketball. It happens. But great run for the Lady Tigers. Hopefully they can turn it around next season. Mike, always a pleasure to hang out with you, my friend, virtually or in real life. But where can people find you here online?
Check us out on YouTube at The War Rapport. You can also follow me at social media at Mike Gittens, and we're at The War Rapport on every social media platform, TW Rapport on TikTok.
Also, locked on UCF as well. Things going okay for the Knights now, aren't they?
Yeah, like look, it's rough times on the basketball court for UCF right now. But hopefully they can close the season strong and maybe make a run in the Big 12 tournament.
All right, Mike, my friend, thank you so much. Hopefully we can do this thing face to face next week, but it's always good to catch up with y'all. That does it for War Rapport Wednesday, y'all. We'll see you next week.